Ramses the pigeon. It's not a pigeon at all, but the Great Sphinx of Giza wearing a headdress that makes it look like one. And if we go back to the New Kingdom of ancient Egypt, around 1279 BC, we might see a man who also looks like a pigeon. That would be Ramses the pigeon, the future pharaoh Ramses II. This is his life story. Welcome to my channel. Pharaoh Ramses II is one of the most famous rulers in history. He was an absolute powerhouse of a pharaoh, reigning for over 66 years. He was warrior, king, and builder. His portrait was everywhere in ancient Egypt, and even today his face is the most recognizable from the ancient world. But how did he get to be pharaoh? Let's find out. The exact date of Ramses' birth is unknown, but it was sometime during the 13th century BC. His father was Seti I, and his mother was a woman named Tuya. The boy Ramses was born in the royal palace in the city of Thebes, which was located near the modern city of Luxor. There he grew up surrounded by the splendor of the Egyptian royal court. He was the third-born son, so there was no great expectation upon him. In fact, he was initially given the name Ramesses, which means son of the moon. Only later was he given the royal name of Usermatrasit, which means the powerful are those who belong to Ra. At first, he had a simple childhood, but when his older brother, Amenhotep, died, suddenly Ramesses became heir to the throne. He got a crash course in everything related to being pharaoh and also married his sister, Isetnofret, who was betrothed to Hatshepsut before him. Then came the biggest test, meeting with the Hittite king Muwatalli II. For the Egyptians, this was a chance to wipe out the hated Hyksos from Canaan. The peace treaty between the Egyptians and the Hittites had been broken when the Egyptian king, perhaps Ramesses' grandfather, had launched an invasion into Syria, captured several cities, and left an army of occupation under the command of his vizier. Now Ramesses' father, Seti I, had come to punish the Hyksos and reclaim Canaan for Egypt. The campaign went well until he died. So now it was up to young Ramesses, at age 14, to finish off the job. He traveled to the front personally to take command. According to the official version, he was greeted with jubilation, and the troops immediately defeated the Hittites, retaking Kadesh on the Orontes River and restoring order in Canaan. However, more recent research suggests that Ramesses' victory at Kadesh was actually more of a stalemate. At any rate, he came back to Egypt as a war hero and took the throne as Ramesses II. Here's where we can really start our journey into the long and storied life of this incredible pharaoh, but I want to hear from you first. Have you ever been to Egypt? Would you like to visit? Let me know in the comments, and while you're down there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Thanks. Ramesses II began his reign with a building project, erecting a memorial temple at Karnak, probably to celebrate his return from the Syrian campaign. But he didn't stop there. Across Egypt, he built temples to himself, including at Abu Simbel, Ramesseum, and other places. He made sure that every temple had his famous profile chiseled into the walls. There were hundreds of these that we know of. But here's the thing, he wasn't just a builder, he was a megalomaniacal builder. He decided to build his own city and called it Pi-Ramesses, or the City of Ramesses. It was located on the east bank of the Nile opposite Thebes and included a huge palace complex and administrative buildings. But there was one big problem, a rather massive mountain in the middle of the settlement. So, what does any self-respecting pharaoh do? He orders the mountain to be leveled. So they cut it down, and eventually it became a garbage dump. To make matters worse, flooding eventually covered the whole area, so no one knew about the city until 1826 when it was rediscovered. Archaeologists found evidence of Ramesses' megalomania throughout his capital. They found a road leading directly to his palace that was lined with statues of himself. And there were giant piles of rubble where he had planned to put new quarters for foreign residents. He envisioned a city full of foreigners working and trading in his capital, but he never finished the project. It wasn't all for nothing, though. While exploring the ruins, archaeologists also found a number of beautiful houses that had been built in the traditional styles of the lands from which the foreign workers had come. So although Ramesses may not have built many structures himself, he encouraged others to do so and created a truly cosmopolitan city in the process. But as impressive as the city was, Ramesses wanted to build something even bigger. In fact, he wanted to build something so big it would become the most impressive structure in the known world. Something that would induce awe in everyone who beheld it. Something that would eclipse everything he had done before. It was a grand plan, and it would require a lot of time and effort. So let's fast forward a bit and jump ahead about 30 years into the reign of Ramesses. He had fought many battles by then and gained lots of booty, including gold, ivory, and fine linen. He had acquired territories as far away as the land of the Philistines and Ugarit on the eastern Mediterranean coast. And he was ready to get to work building his dream. He chose the site carefully, right next to the river and close enough to the city of Thebes. He designed a series of terraces, causeways, and gardens to surround the structure. And then he started laying the foundation on the first day of the year 1203 BC. Then he gathered all of the dignitaries from the city and the kingdom and held a great festival to mark the occasion. The very soil where the foundations were laid had been blessed by the gods, or so he said. And so it was that construction began on the greatest monument ever built, the great complex of buildings and temples known as Abu Simbel. Here's a fun fact for you. When you visit Abu Simbel today, the entrance is dark and you need to bring a flashlight to see anything inside. That's because the ancient Egyptians left most of the interior unpainted. So it's pretty much pitch black inside, but that's not because they were stingy. It's because they saved the best artwork for the outside. On the exterior are four gigantic statues of the pharaoh carved into the sandstone cliff face. Each statue is 66 feet tall, and they are flanked by three smaller statues on either side. One of them is always watching you as you pass by. And you can tell it's the pharaoh because he has the pointy pharaoh's beard. And the entrance to the main chamber is between the second and third statues. Inside, there are 6 colossal statues of Ramesses II, each 66 feet tall. These are simply breathtaking, and on the walls are scenes of his victories at the Battle of Kadesh and elsewhere. A little further on, you can see the pharaoh praying to the gods. It was quite the undertaking to construct Abu Simbel, and it took 20 years to complete. The word Egypt comes from the Greek word Aegyptos, which means border. And Abu Simbel was literally on the borders of Egypt, where the desert met the cultivated fields. So it was a fitting place to show the power of the pharaoh to all who entered Egypt. Throughout his reign, Ramesses kept busy. He traveled extensively through Egypt and Nubia, visiting Memphis, Thebes, and other cities. He fought numerous battles against the Libyans and Nubians, the Hyksos in Canaan, and even the mysterious people of the land of the... Yes, I know it's hard to keep all these names straight, but trust me, even for the ancient Egyptians, it was a mouthful. In fact, he proudly boasts of his virility in many reliefs and inscriptions. As I mentioned earlier, he married his sister Isetnofret, but he also had a number of other wives, both Egyptian and foreign. One of his most famous wives was Nefertari, the daughter of an important official in the Egyptian court. Their relationship was obviously very important to Ramesses because he lavished attention and gifts on her. He gave her a palace and many servants, and he celebrated their anniversary with festivals and banquets. He even built a temple dedicated to her and placed it right next to his own. But as great as Ramesses II was, his reign did not go without its challenges. The economy suffered from inflation, which caused widespread poverty among the people. There were famines and epidemics, and the old capital at Thebes was destroyed by a flood. All of these things weighed heavily on the mind of the pharaoh, and he tried to alleviate them by building new cities and improving the lives of his subjects. But there was one thing he could not control: the inevitable decline of the Egyptian state. His successors were weak and ineffective, and the kingdom fell into decline after his death. Still, Ramesses II died happy in the knowledge that he had lived a good life. He died in 1157 BC at the age of 90 or 91. That's pretty good, right? I mean, considering he ruled for 66 years, maybe he deserved it. Anyway, he died knowing that he had accomplished great things and that his legacy would live on for centuries to come. Let us hope that whatever pharaohs there will be in the future don't end up looking like pigeons. Thanks for watching. See you next time.